Hello folks. Today I want to talk a little bit more specifically about how to graph with Google Sheets, as this might be a new skill for you. So the first thing you should know when opening up a spreadsheet is that oftentimes there are multiple tabs along the bottom that allow you to switch between pieces of information. And if you want to rename the tab, you can just double click and edit accordingly. Today we are going to focus on this practice graph and how to make graphing quick and painless. The first thing that you want to start with is a well-labeled data table. This was an example of temperature and enzymes and how protein is digested. And here is my data table. So the first thing I notice is I see tubes 1 through 5, and if I highlight this entire data table and insert the chart, I get kind of an ugly looking thing, and I see that tube number is my independent variable. But that's not my independent variable. The independent variable was temperature. Tube number was just a way to keep the tests organized while the experiment was running. So I don't even need that piece of data. What I do need is temperature, amount of protein digested, and the pieces of data. So I'm going to click and drag and highlight and insert my chart. And Google does a pretty good job of guessing what type of chart you need. In this case, it is a scatter chart, a scatter plot, because the data is continuous and we are looking for an overall trend. And so we can also take that scatter plot and add a trend line. So to do that, we would go into Customize and Series and add a trend line. Now, the automatic default is a linear trend line, but there are other types. And so we can kind of click through and see which one fits our data. This looks pretty decent, but then in our original data, we see that at a high temperature, the protein digestion went down to 0. So let's try another one, polynomial. Hey, that's pretty decent. We can change the line color if we want. We can go with a nice Lake Braddock purple. Go Bruins. So what we see here is we can now see this overall trend being explained in our graph, that there was an increase to a certain temperature and then a sharp decrease. And if you're real fancy, you can play around with some of these other pieces, but this is a decent line for us. Okay, we can modify the title or the axes labels. So if you don't have those axes labeled, you can always add them in manually. Again, we are in Customize, Chart and Axis Title, and I'm going to change the title to Protein Digestion at Different Temperatures. And it is automated. You can make the fonts and the title text colors different if that is something you aren't interested in. And then you can change the axis titles if you need to change them as well. So make sure when you are graphing that you are picking the correct type of graph using your scatter, using the setup. And you can customize and add a trend line through Series. And you can edit your titles as you need. And here, even the data point looks a little cut off and I want to give it a little more space. I could change my horizontal axis, maximum value, maybe 100. And now that graph looks a little better spaced. What's great about graphing online is that it makes the scales even automatically, evenly spaced, and it appropriately scales for you so that you are using that maximum amount of space. I can then click on my graph, edit, and copy, and I could paste it into a Google Doc or wherever I need it. So those are just a little bit of basics on graphing, and you will apply that in these other activities. Have a great day.